Hello and welcome to the post-game live stream edition of the Cyclone Insider podcast. He's Randy Peterson. I'm Travis Hines, coming to you after a 30-10 Iowa State victory over Cincinnati in the first ever matchup between the Cyclones and Bearcats. Iowa State moves to 4-3 overall, 3-1 in the Big 12. And Randy, this looks like a completely different team than the one that got embarrassed in this very state about a month ago against Ohio. Now second place in the Big 12. The path to the bowl to 6 wins and a bowl game seems very doable. And it seems like it's a new team, a new program, and a lot of happy vibes coming from Iowa State when just a few weeks and certainly a month ago, that was definitely not the case.
Boy, you hit it right on the button there, Travis. What happened here in Athens, Ohio, was rock bottom, and like Rocco said after the game, he's almost apologetic for saying it, but that was probably the best thing that could happen to them was to lose that game. It was a wake up call, and by golly, since then, the game against Oklahoma aside, since then they've played their best football of the year, winning 3 or 4 games, and like you said, in second place in the Big 12 alone, or in second place in the Big 12, with one loss. There's by the end of the day there'll be others with one loss, I'm sure, but nonetheless, after that Ohio game, did anybody really think that Iowa State would be where they are now? Iowa State would be after 7 games, needing 2 more victories to go to a bowl game. Man, I don't know, but you're right. They seem to be putting it all together now, and that's a cliche. I get it, but it's a great momentum builder for Iowa State going into the off week with a very young team. I can only imagine what next week's practices, albeit light practices, are going to be like. It's going to be a nice little hop in their step and then venture forward, because there certainly are. If they play like they did today, if they play like they did 2 weeks ago against TCU, there's certainly winnable games out there for the remainder of the year. So this was a huge victory in that respect.
I think maybe the most encouraging thing, if you're Campbell or you're Iowa State or you're an Iowa State fan, is that this doesn't seem to be smoke and mirrors. It doesn't seem to be purely a function of the schedule easing up, although certainly the schedule has helped, but it's not like Iowa and Ohio were heavyweights there. So I think the most encouraging thing has got to be that you're seeing real improvement for Iowa State on all 3 phases of the game. The offense and Rocco Becht have taken leaps and bounds forward. You got to give Campbell and Shieldhouse a ton of credit for adapting and realizing, maybe you can argue too late, maybe, but the reality is they are where they are, that they made the decision to change things offensively and be more, I don't want to say open up the playbook in a way that they otherwise would not have, in terms of throwing the ball, getting some creativity in the run game. Defensively, I think they have done a really good job of eliminating the bigger plays. We saw Cincinnati really miss a huge opportunity that would have been a touchdown on their first drive of the game. But other than that, Iowa State did a really good job of limiting big plays. Special teams, Chase Contreras makes all 3 of his kicks, plus picks up first down, a fake field goal. Jalen Knoll has huge returns in the kick return game. So, I mean, again, all 3 phases were locked in for Iowa State in this game in a way that was absolutely not a month ago for all 3 units for Iowa State. So, again, I think beyond just winning the games, to steal a Campbell phrase, the process has the results are validating the process. And I think you're seeing that, really for the last month now.
Yeah,
even against Oklahoma, I thought you could see them taking steps forward
for the first half. most of the first half, absolutely. There were, and like Campbell and all the players said, there's still a heck of a lot of room to grow. I mean, there were passes today where Rocco and the receivers, their communication just wasn't as sharp as it needs to be, and as it will be moving forward. But these are young players. There were, I thought the defense, once it figured out what Cincinnati was doing offensively, especially in the run game, and that's a number 11 offense in the country coming into the game. The Iowa State defense played very well, and once again, they had multiple interceptions with the secondary. So, I mean, it's going to be hard to argue against Iowa State secondary not being the best in the Big 12, but I guess we'll get to that one later. But, there's places to grow in this game. Like I said, Rocco wasn't perfect. Rocco does what Rocco has to do. And there were times today when he had to run, and I liked the way he tucked it and ran. And there were times when those runs were actually planned runs. And what was it? The touchdown where he ran for, he faked the pitch. I kind of like that. I kind of like that play too. So we saw some things from out of the playbook that we saw more pages in the playbook as the season's gone on. And I think that's I would not be surprised if that's not a product of the young team. They can only handle so much at each game and each week of practice, and give them gradually more. And by the time we get to Waco, that's our next trip, isn't it? Waco, yeah, I think so. By the time we get there, I mean, I don't know what we'll see out of the playbook, but that's certainly going to be a winnable game as well.
Yeah, I think the bye week comes at a good time just by virtue of being in the middle of the season, but certainly Iowa State has some momentum right now, and they're going to have to carry it over. I mean, like that Baylor game is a must win to get to 6.
Right.
Like you do not want to go into November, which is not a great schedule, needing 2 wins. You get Kansas at home, then you're at BYU, who as of right now, BYU is getting smacked by TCU. And then you've got Texas at home and a trip to K-State. That's not the easiest November schedule for Iowa State, and you have a Baylor team next in 2 weeks that looks miserable at the moment. Got to win that game. That's going to be a crucial game. But the point is that they're set up really well right now in a way that we would not have predicted a month ago.
And to win on the road, the first time Iowa State's won on the Big 12 road since at K-State in 2021, and that was significant as well. And you could tell that the players knew that because Rocco, for example, is one of the first things he said was about that, and Campbell mentioned it all as well in his post game to us. So that obviously that was talked about in the locker room, and it's a big talking point. Trev, I was down in the locker room area after the game, waiting for an interview. And the excitement that I saw in those players' eyes, the excitement that I saw just on their actions as they walked into the locker room, walked out of the locker room, there were probably 50 to 75 fans huddled around outside the locker room. I mean, they had an area cordoned off, but they were there and they were chanting Iowa State. They were very, very inspirational and motivational to these guys, and that's what these young players need to see. And there were a lot of Iowa State fans there, among them, whatever it was, 38,000 fans in the stadium today. There were a ton of Iowa State fans. I wouldn't have expected anything less. But so I mean, it gives the Iowa State's younger players a good feeling going into the bye week, and whereas it just as well could have been the other way around also. So yeah, I think the rest of the season, if Iowa State can fix some things coming out of this game, then who knows where or what it's going to end up.
He's Randy Peterson. I'm Travis Hines. This has been the Cyclone Insider live stream and podcast, coming to you from Nippert Stadium in downtown Cincinnati. Iowa State beats the Bearcats 30-10, improving to 4-3 overall, 3-1 in the Big 12. Be sure to check out DesMoinesRegister.com for all the coverage you could possibly want from this Iowa State victory. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.